something about how you get well. I'm going to totally blow the punchline of this entire podcast. There's no magic bullet. The white horse is not coming. There is no Prince Charming. It really is a series of the most seemingly mundane things that add up to success over time.
Welcome to the most exciting adventure of your life. Welcome to a new way of living, and welcome to the Fierce Planet Adventures podcast.
Hi, I'm Casey.
And I'm Andy, and we're on a mission to inspire and guide 1 million people to live a life of purpose, passion, and self-mastery. As Unbeatable Mind coaches, we use an integrated whole-person approach to vertical growth, which includes the 5 mountains of cutting-edge human development: physical, mental, emotional, intuitional, and Kokoro, merging heart and mind in action to serve a purpose greater than ourselves. Regardless of your physical talent or your self-concept of your physical capabilities, everyone can take immediate steps to improve the health and balance of their bodies through functional fitness, nutrition, sleep, and somatic movement. This from Unbeatable Mind founder Mark Divine. Today, we're discussing the overarching principle of the physical mountain, your health, and how you can take back control of yours. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this episode.
There are a lot of pharmacists out there. There are a lot of natural wellness experts, yoga teachers, business coaches, and social media influencers. But there's only one, Lindsey Elmore. She holds a bachelor's degree in chemistry and a doctorate of pharmacy, and completed 2 years of postdoctoral education in internal medicine and family medicine. She's spoken to audiences on 5 continents in more than 30 countries, wrote a book about essential oils and supplements, and has built a big social media presence with more than 20 million minutes of education watched online. She's helping women take full ownership of their health and wellness, every single aspect of it. From wellness in the physical body, to stability in mental health, to robustness of spirit, to freedom in finances. She's not here to provide a one-size-fits-all approach. She's here to work alongside you as your partner to discover your ultimate roadmap to health. Welcome, Dr. Lindsey Elmore.
Hey, thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to be here.
Great, thank you. We are so excited to have you. And we just like to break the ice usually by asking, what are you most excited about in your life right now?
That is a very, very big question. You know, I will tell you this. A few weeks ago, I heard a podcast and they were talking about how there are different types of fasts that you can do. So typically, I think we think of fasting as it relates to food, but they also said that, you can fast from detrimental behaviors. You can fast from things that simply steal your mental energy. And so I am 10 days into a no true crime podcast fast because I tell you, I almost have become a scholar of true crime. I have listened to so many podcasts. And the other day, I heard something so horrific that I was like, no other human being ever needs to hear that that's a thing. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to take this out. I'm going to take this out and I'm going to give this mental energy to something else. And I have since been listening to sermons and spiritual leaders. I listened to the John Maxwell Leadership podcast. I started back listening to some health and wellness podcasts like the Mind Body Green podcast. And I just made space for something other than listening to the worst of the worst about people.
Beautiful. That's what we take in. This is so powerful because what we put in, what we observe, what we listen to affects the way we think, or it can. So if you're constantly bombarding yourself with negative news and in topics like violence, that's what you're going to be thinking about instead of that healthy, positive input. So Lindsey, thanks for joining us today. We met at the Amari Global Transformation Tour in Atlanta last month, where you were one of the presenters. And less than 5 minutes into your presentation, we knew we just had to have you on our podcast. So
thank you.
You're welcome. What we'd love to hear about is your journey so far, like where you grew up, your hobbies, and where you're at now.
Yeah. So I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, and I was a born teacher. I loved teaching from the time that I was very young. I played school at like 3 years old. At my sixth birthday party, I got mad because I was teaching a dance class and nobody was paying enough attention to me. And my mom was a single mom, and she was a nurse. And so single moms, guess what? They take their kids to work a lot. And so I went to work with her at the doctor's office and was around hospitals and started doing filing work, clerking work at like 14 years old. And even when I was young, and especially like in high school and stuff, people started to say, and it became this running theme of my life, that I get more work done accomplished than most people do in the same time frame. And I was like, oh, whatever. It just feels like me doing my thing. And so I started to realize that I had a very good work ethic and that it came easily to me. I decided I wanted to be an actress and a singer and a dancer. And my mom was like, yeah, no, you're going to get a real job. And so I ended up going to school, getting a degree in biology. I competed in the Miss Alabama system, which also helped to bring me a lot of new skill sets as far as public speaking goes. I started, even as a child, when I was training to be an actress, I did voice and diction lessons and improv and stage work and camera work, and just learned all of those skill sets along the way. And fast forward, degree in chemistry, doctorate in pharmacy, all the postdoctoral education. And I eventually came to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to figure out how to make science acting, and how does science become entertainment. And so that's what I started doing, was just finding ways to make science simple for people to understand. And that's where the social media audience came from. That's where I learned to study the craft of sales, marketing, influence, and all of the things. Cause I mentioned the John Maxwell podcast, and the episode I listened to yesterday was all about how we all have influence, and influencer is kind of this buzzword, but Maxwell maintains that like the best leaders out there simply have influence over other people. And he breaks down what do all of these letters mean. And the ones I can remember off of the top of my head is that influencers they're nurturing, they're listeners, they empower people, they help to grow people. And so that's kind of where I came to, is just like, I just want other people to know that they deserve to be healthy, and that we don't have to be in this very broken system that is modern medicine. And by the way, I'm going to entertain you and have fun teaching you science along the way.
So on that note, here's a quote from you. You deserve to be healthy and free of the tyranny that is modern guideline-based medicine. So what inspired you to make the shift from pharmacist to natural holistic health practitioner?
Well, I will say I am still a licensed pharmacist, and I'm proud to be a pharmacist. I love teaching people how to use medications more safely and effectively, and being sure that patients are protected. But then on the other hand, I just realized it didn't work. Like, the whole system just does not work. It works great if you're having a heart attack, or if you just had a motor vehicle accident, or if you're having a stroke. Like, yeah, go to the hospital. But when I was doing my training, I'm a specialist in cardiometabolic disease, which 88% of the United States has at least one marker of cardiometabolic disease. So that's it's horrifying. And you ask people, like, do you have cardiometabolic disease? Do you have any metabolism problems? And people are like, no, my metabolism's fine. 88% of people have at least one marker of cardiometabolic disease. And so learning how to shift our understanding that diabetes is not a cardiovascular disease. High blood pressure is not a cardiovascular disease. These are cardiometabolic diseases. Our mitochondria are broken. We are not nourishing our bodies in ways that we need to. And so when it comes to cardiometabolic disease, modern medicine is terrible. It's absolutely horrible. It will let you march on a steady straight line path directly towards diabetes for 30 years or 20 years and then go, we never saw that coming. It's like, bro, we could have checked a fasting insulin level 10 years ago. And so studies have actually concluded that the average person diagnosed with diabetes has had diabetes for probably 3 to 5 years before somebody took it seriously enough to say, hey, we need to intervene here. And the insulin resistance that's leading to the prediabetes and then the new onset diabetes, that's probably 15 years old. It could have started during childhood, but yet we just don't look at it. We don't look at how do we prevent disease. We don't look at those things. And to me, that is a shame. It is a major problem that I have. And, and I also, through my own experiences. So when I was in pharmacy school, I tore my ACL, which landed me in the chiropractor's office for the first time, which landed me in the acupuncturist office for the first time. And that began my mind expansion into the understanding that there are a lot of medical disciplines that actually aim to prevent illness. And the whole system is built around preventative medicine. And so traditional Chinese medicine is that way. Ayurvedic medicine is that way. All of the ancient medicines are that way. And it's only been since the early 1900s, following publication of the Flexner report, that we indoctrinated literally exactly what it means to be a clinician in the United States. And so I just said, you know what? We have so much ancient wisdom. We have so many ancient knowings that we just choose to ignore. And I just go, no, I'm not going to ignore all those things. And I think people think that there's like some magic something about how you get well. I'm going to totally blow the punchline of this entire podcast. There's no magic bullet. The white horse is not coming. There is no Prince Charming. It really is a series of the most seemingly mundane things that add up to success over time. And so if you're sitting here going and you're listening to this podcast like, oh my gosh, how am I going to be healthy? You're going to stress less. You're going to sleep more. You're going to exercise, but not too much. You're going to eat real food. You're going to cut out toxic relationships. You're going to work on yourself. You're going to work on becoming the best version of yourself, because then we can start trying to help influence and lead other people down a healthier path as well. It starts as an inside job. We have to work on ourselves first.
When I think about energy and vitality, I think about a kid. They have the energy to play, run around, climb things. That energy that feels like you just can't contain yourself. It's the stuff we've always wished they could just bottle up and sell to us, right? Well, this company's found a way to do just that. Amari's Happy Juice Pack. Mood, motivation, energy, things our bodies can naturally produce when both our guts and our brains are happy and communicating. And we can actually improve that process of communication across the axis of the gut and the brain. This is cutting-edge science. This is game-changing information. This is where science meets soul. This is Amari, and we're helping people feel better naturally. Boost your serotonin and GABA. Balance your neurotransmitters. Nourish your gut. The things that make you want to do. Start feeling better the natural way. Check out the links in the show notes for discounts and more information.
Amen. Yep. You know what, when we work with our coaching clients, one of the biggest steps is to get them to realize that all the change that they want is already within themselves. They have the answers. We just help them uncover it. And I think the same is true here with their health, with people's health.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to have courage, and we need to have confidence, and we need to know that we deserve to be healthy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Starting with yourself, what can you affect as an individual, right? There's so much going on in the world. There's so many things stacked against us, from the food at the grocery store to the fast food, to the news, right? These are all toxic things, or could be. Where do you start? You start with yourself. You start by changing the way you interact with the world, the way you show up in the world. And then you help others, right? Once you get to the point where you've gained some traction, that's when you start helping other folks.
Absolutely. And we can't work on other people at the sacrifice of not working on ourselves. That's called management, and nobody wants to be managed. People want to be inspired.
Yes.
They want to follow someone who is doing the tough work, who is working on all their trauma from their past, who is saying like, oh God, I did gain 20 pounds in the past 5 years. I really got to pay attention to that now. And we want to work with people who give us that encouragement to keep going. I mean, it's not easy to show up for yourself and eat salad. Nobody is denying that donuts are delicious, but we have to take just series of small steps each and every day. And ultimately, that takes a whole lot of self-worth. It takes a whole lot of self-value, to go, I'm worth improving and I'm worth diversifying, but yet I'm also going to stay humble. I'm going to stay meek. I'm going to stay ready to receive. This is not going to my head. I'm not better than anybody else because I have whatever. Everybody has something, and it's our jobs, I think, to make ourselves better so that we can help to improve the lives of others. I think it was Thomas Edison, the life worth living is one in service of others, or something along those lines. And I think so often, I've learned a lot of lessons from Al-Anon. My life has been deeply impacted by alcoholism, and it distorts your thought patterns. And so you have to get control of your thought patterns back. And one of the things that we learn in Al-Anon is that just for today, I'm not going to try to regulate anybody's behavior except my own. Now, I get it, parents listening out there. If you got a 3-year-old who's about to get hurt, you're going to regulate that behavior. But in general, what many of us do all of the time is we try to regulate our friends. We try to regulate our spouse. We try to regulate our adult children. We try to regulate our environment, and that causes stress. And Eckhart Tolle says stress is nothing more than wanting the present moment to be something that it is not. And so stop trying to regulate everybody else and regulate your own behavior, and just go, you know what? I'm going to show up, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to be present, and I'm going to be engaged, and I am going to not try to get up in anybody's business or gossip or criticize or any of the things. Just regulate yourself. And if you can do that for I don't know, the next 15 years, then maybe you'll be prepared to truly lead somebody else in these lessons as well.
100%. That's powerful.
So powerful. Yeah. Self-awareness.
It's a thing for sure.
What do you see as the biggest obstacle holding so many people back from living a healthy lifestyle? I mean, just the mindset, the toxins in the environment, all together.
Oh, it's so many things, but ultimately it's that people think that the answer lies outside of them. They're looking to the doctor. They're looking to the guru. They're looking to the next thing. They're looking. The power of the whole universe is right there inside of you, friend. And if you learn to trust your intuition, and if you learn to trust your gut, and you learn not to allow societal pressures to tell you who, what, when, where, and how you're supposed to be, if you let all of that go and recognize that the most powerful doctor, the best spouse that you can be, the most trustworthy person, the person who clearly sees, "Ooh, this is not right for my life," is right inside of you. You just have either experienced so much trauma that you don't listen anymore. You don't think that your opinion matters. Stop that right now, friend. Like, your opinion absolutely matters, especially to yourself. I think so often we allow everything around us. We allow life to happen to us instead of us actually going out and saying, this is the life I want to live. These are the goals I want to accomplish. And I don't care if you don't like my goal. I told a friend, like, look, I want to cook a meal every month from either a country that I've never been to or with an ingredient that I've never cooked with. And he was like, that doesn't sound fun at all. And I was like, well, that's why you're not doing it. I don't care if this sounds fun to you. This is my life and it's my journey. And I think as long as we stay humble and we realize that the more that we surrender over to the understanding that, however you say it, if you say the universe has your back, if you say I have a higher power, as we say in Al-Anon, if you say, hey, I'm here to follow Jesus, come hell or high water, however you say it, if you stay focused on things that are bigger than you, greater than you, goals you've never accomplished, things that you think are impossible, saving $15,000 to go on an epic safari to Africa, I don't care what you set your sights on, but set your sights on something bigger and better and more purpose driven, so that when times get tough, you're like, yeah, but I'm doing this for my beach house in Hawaii. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing these things that I don't want to do right now. Set your sights on things unseen. And I think that we all can dream bigger and be better versions of ourselves, no matter what your goals are.
What really stuck out for me, Lindsey, is with what you just said is we need to get right with ourselves, work on the relationship we have with ourselves, and be more accepting of who we are. And once we can have that good relationship with ourselves and see our self-value, see our self-worth, then we can really start to make our print on the world and really start to engage with other people in a very meaningful way.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I mean, I told a friend of mine who was really struggling one day, and I'd had my little, like, really sweet moments of like, let me just help you out, friend. But it was time. And I finally just told her, I cannot make you like yourself. And until you like yourself, you're going to be stuck right here. And so I don't want you to be stuck. I don't want you to live your life stuck. And I also, I think a lot of the times we come up against, well, this is who I want to be. And somebody else says like, no, don't be that person. Sometimes it's good advice. Sometimes somebody who genuinely loves you is saying, why don't you think twice about marrying that dude? Why don't you think twice about buying that house that's like $100K over your price point? Sometimes people are genuinely looking out for your best interest, but if you're constantly butted up against the, like, I am being myself and they don't support me, that is one of the most stressful scenarios that you can be in as a human being. And sometimes it takes making different decisions and going, this isn't right for my life anymore. I need people who care about me as me, because I am expressing genuinely who I am as the best version of myself. If you're expressing the very, very best version of yourself and people don't like you, Bye.
Yeah.
Go find your peeps. Go find your peeps because you're not my peeps. And that's taken me a long time. Building a social media following, you have to have very thick skin and a very short-term memory. And I think back, like things that 5 years ago would have been devastating to me, just roll off my back. It took me years of meditation because you take a lot of criticism on social media, especially when, to a lot of appearances, I'm kind of straddling the fence. I've got kind of 1 foot in pharmacy, and then I've got 1 foot in like the middle finger to pharmacy over on the other side of the fence. And some people can't handle that. We try to make health black and white. There's no black and white, friends. It's all gray area. People ask me all the time, what should I eat? And I'm like, I don't know. What could you eat? Like what medicine should I take? I don't know. I don't know these things. But you do. And, moms reach out to me all the time and they're like, I don't feel good about this thing that's being recommended for my kid. And I'm like, okay. And people just need validation that their feelings actually matter. And so over the course of years, things that once bothered me very much, I am grateful that I've been able to do enough meditation in my life to just envision it like a bead of water rolling off a duck's back. I don't know if you've ever seen a duck go diving into the water and they come up and you're like, you dry. How'd you do that? So just imagine criticisms that come from people who don't know you. Just forget it. Who cares what the ladies at the PTA are saying about you? If they were genuinely good, meek, humble people who were focused on their own personal development, they wouldn't have time for the gossip anyways.
Exactly.
Oh, this is such an important topic, and one I think is not talked about nearly enough. And when it is, sometimes it comes across as, oh, well, just love yourself. Get over yourself. Or occasionally I've heard people put it that way. And it's just being able to find that self-worth within yourself just opens you up to so many more opportunities and ways of seeing the world around you.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Marianne Williamson, I think, said it best. We're not actually scared of failure. We're scared of our true, infinite possibility of everything that we are. I mean, how many times do people rebel against what's truly good advice? I mean, think about it. How often do you, listener, rebel against the eat right, exercise, breathe correctly, and get better sleep? We all do it every day. I don't know why. It's the eternal human battle of, the very essence of nature, the whole thing of why am I here? That epic battle of good versus evil. It happens within us every single day. We come at odds with ourselves because we're here on earth to learn and to grow and to become. And, I love thinking about, okay, well, how do I become a leader and a leader of myself? Well, first you got to listen to your own body. You've got to learn from the signals it's sending you. You have to love yourself enough to actually lead yourself down a good path. And the same can be said for influencing other people. If you want to have influence and leadership within a certain group of people, you better listen first to find out what their needs are. And so we grow internally so that we can grow externally and be of service to others.
I'm going to transition just a little bit, but I think you touched on it already. What advice would you give someone that's looking to take back their personal power from the healthcare system that we have set up today?
Make a plan. I was about to be like, just break up with the swear word. But you can't always. And so make a plan. Make a transition plan. Don't just jump willy-nilly from, okay, I've had a heart attack and I'm on 5 medicines, but I don't like Western medicine anymore. So poof, it's gone. No, don't do that. So, but make a plan. Do you need to book an appointment with an acupuncturist? Do you need to book an appointment with a massage therapist? Do you need to book an appointment with physical therapy or with a counselor to have some talk therapy? There's all kinds of ways that you can find a new healing community and find people who will help you become an even better version of yourself. And I also I hear people say all the time, I tried this new supplement and it didn't work. And I'm like, well, how long did you use it? Like for 4 days. And it's like, bro, how long did it take you to get into this body? Oh, you're 45. It took you 45 years to get your body looking like this and feeling like this. You think 3 days of a random supplement is going to help? No. Same thing with exercise. I started exercising and I haven't lost any weight. How long did you exercise? About 4 minutes. Okay. Now, on the one hand, I'm a huge fan of BJ Fogg's work about tiny habits. You do 1 push-up, boom, you are a person who does push-ups. You floss 1 tooth, you are a person who flosses. But the purpose of creating a tiny habit is so that one tiny habit begins the next one, begins the next one, begins the next one. And so take heart, listeners. It's not about like drawing a line in the sand and stepping over it and going, I'm never going back to industrialized medicine. It's simply about saying, I'm going to do one thing today, and I'm going to do another thing today. And now I'm going to do one more thing, and just this one more thing. And we just go one thing at a time, and that's it. Just one step at a time.
1% better every day. That's the motto that we live by and work with our coaching clients on. Just 1%. If you can increase your push-ups by 1% a day, you start with 1, right? So 1%, it's exponential. This episode of Fierce Planet Adventures podcast is brought to you by 5 Mountain Coaching, licensed Unbeatable Mind Coaching, integrated accelerated vertical growth across 5 domains of cutting-edge development designed by retired Navy SEAL Commander Mark Devine. Learn the Big 4 skills of mental toughness and resiliency. Discover the 6 pillars of performance. Test your mettle with custom-created crucibles across all 5 domains. Visit 5mountaincoaching.com to schedule your free 1-hour Unbeatable Mind Coaching session. That's the number 5, mountaincoaching.com. Begin your journey to becoming unbeatable today. I'd like to get your take on the emerging science of the gut-brain axis.
Okay. So
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's so many interesting studies out there, and there's plenty to be found if you just do a search from Harvard Medical, Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic. It's there, right? So it's very interesting. It's very cutting edge and it's emerging. So I'd love to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think has been of profound interest for about a decade or so, which in research is just a tiny blip on the map. And so the gut brain axis is a bi-directional communication system between the central nervous system of the brain and the spinal cord and the enteric nervous system, which is all of the nerves that are in the gut. And what it does is it links our emotional and cognitive centers with our intestinal function. That is exactly what the gut-brain axis is a linking of our thoughts, our emotions with our intestinal function. And there's a ton of research that's emerging about just how important the gut microbiome is in influencing these interactions. We know that it is a bi-directional communication with signaling from the gut bacteria to the brain and from the brain to the gut bacteria, and it does it through a series of so actual nerves that are traveling back and forth, endocrine, and so it also works on things like cortisol, immune, to where the gut bacteria is able to send immune system information, as well as humoral links. And this is a very, very exciting understanding, because we know that we now have associations with dysbiosis, unhealthy gut bacteria, with a wide range of central nervous system disorders, from anxiety, depression, autism. We know that irritable bowel syndrome, and I mean this with kindness and love, friends who are listening who are like, irritable bowel syndrome, I have that. That's an anxiety disorder, is what's happening. Your gut has become twitchy due to anxiety. And so, it's very complex, but it helps to ensure our gastrointestinal homeostasis, but has a ton of effects on our affect, on our motivation, and our higher cognitive functions. And so it is very complex. We think about it working just we think about it working through hormones, through the immune system, through the actual nervous system connection. But we also know that all of this signaling impacts how immune resilient we are in our gut, how permeable our gut is, how quickly our gut is moving, is all balanced and managed by our gut microbiome. And so we think of the main functions of the gut brain axis, the gut to the brain. We have the expression and the turnover of serotonin and GABA, as well as a brain-derived neurotrophic factor. The gut microbiome holds our tight junctions together. It takes in sensory information on, like, how good is this food for us? Is this a pro-inflammatory food or an anti-inflammatory food? It also alters the mucus, the mucosal immune regulation in the gut, protecting the gut from different assailants that would threaten the stability of the gut. The brain tells the gut microbiome how quickly to move, whether or not to open up and have leaky gut. It alters mucus and biofilm production, and it alters the very essence of our immune function. So the list goes on and on and on about just how important the gut-brain axis is.
I've read recently that they've identified, excuse me, certain gut bacteria that is actually connected to schizophrenia. And I was wondering, do you have, excuse me, any thoughts about that specifically, or ways? Well, why don't we just open it up here? When we talk about gut brain axis, and we're going to connect it a little bit to our work with as Unbeatable Mind coaches in the 5 mountains. So when we talk about our heart, right, our heart feels open-heartedness, the heart connection. What's going on there with those sensors?
Well, I mean, you think about it, your brain is a thinking, it's a cognitive organ. Your gut is a sensory organ, and then your heart is an emotional organ. And I think we doubt this, but if you say, like, I trust my gut feeling, that is you trusting the intuition in your gut. How many people do you know who have suffered a broken heart? That is very real. It is very, very gut wrenching, heart rending when we suffer from these things. So we actually feel our emotions in different organ systems, and it's our job to work on keeping them all healthy so that we have the emotional capacity to respond instead of react. That's ultimately what we're trying to do, is stop our gut from telling us that everything is worth panicking over, stop our heart from being all aflutter, and get our brain to where we're thinking in our prefrontal cortex instead of that ancient limbic system of the brain. And if we can take a couple of minutes just to pause, there's really big power in a pause when you're facing a stressful situation. And so, sometimes I think we allow our heart to break because our heart breaks open. But I think we all also know people who die of broken hearts. I think we see this a lot in elderly couples where the wife dies first. I remember when my great grandfather died, and I was like, why did he die? Like, he was fine. And I remember my granddad telling me, like, well, your great grandmother died. And I was like, yeah. And he said that men don't last long after that. And I think that is changing. I think that some of our younger listeners have not been brought up with some of that. But that understanding of, like, if your spouse goes, like, there is that risk of you dying of a broken heart, because you break your heart, you break your spirit. It's hard to get your mind right. When your mind's not right, it's hard to get yourself healthy again. And so, we think about the gut brain axis, but there's also a gut heart axis, a gut lung axis, a gut immune axis. The gut talks to everything. The gut informs everything.
So let me just break this down into my very layman terms so literally everything I put into my gut is affecting the way I think and show up in the world.
It's not just everything you put into your gut, it's everything you put into your mind also affects your gut.
Yes.
If you're putting stress into your body, if you're putting toxin. So listen, let's take one big step back. What is the root cause of all disease? They're in functional medicine. I think we try to make disease very, very complicated, but there's only 8 root causes of disease, right?
Really?
So there's only 8 root causes of disease. Stress is number 1. There is no disease that stress does not make worse, and no disease that stress does not cause. Stress causes all disease and is also a byproduct of all disease. Stress, toxins, and toxicants. So this is where herbicides, pesticides, heavy metals, drugs, and alcohol come into play. Antigens, allergens, and food, adverse food reactions, another core cause of disease. Infections and infestations and dysbiosis, so problems with your gut bacteria, are as bad as a chronic infection in the functional medicine realm. Then you have nutritional excesses, AKA eating the standard American diet, and nutritional deficits, which are AKA eating the standard American diet, which has way too many calories and no nutrition. And then the last 3 are sleep, sedentarism, so lack of exercise, and sociogenomics. I think we try to blame so much on, like, oh, it's my genes, it's genetic. Our best estimates are that a maximum of 5% of disease is truly caused by genetics. It's all lifestyle. And so that's where the genomics comes in. And this also is where nature versus nurture comes up. How you were raised, who you were raised by. Did you have a safe environment? Did you have adverse childhood experiences? Did you have access to food growing up? Did you have a proper education? Did you have economic opportunities? All of that falls into sociogenomics. And so, look, if you just take a big step back and go, I may not have control over everything in my life, but I am going to intentionally aim to mitigate my stress, reduce my exposure to toxins, avoid foods that I know cause me upset stomach and diarrhea. And I am going to not eat too much. I'm going to take a multiple vitamin to supplement what I'm not getting from my diet. And I am going to work on being sure that I'm working on, I forgot my infestations, and, do a parasite cleanse twice a year and work on your gut bacteria. And stop using it as a badge of honor that you don't sleep, friend. Stop. It's like not cute. It's not the flex you think it is, as I heard somebody say on TikTok the other day. And so you can work on sleep, sedentarism, and while you may not be able to change the way that you were raised, dang it, you can pour your time and energy into helping another person, another child, not go through the same socioeconomic barriers that you went through. Help people. I've been in Al-Anon, and there's the Alateen. Some of the mantras in the books that they send out, listening to these children say things like, my home is not always stable. Sometimes people are screaming and yelling and hurting each other, but I do not have to be that kind of person. Like, rip my heart out. And, yeah, just rip my heart out right now. And so if you can't change your own sociogenomics, help other people change theirs.
It seems like there's so many things in our environment, lifestyles, even if we're doing a lot of these things to better ourselves, how can we take it a step further of optimizing our health? What other supplements or practices can we do to break out of this behavior of unhealthy?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is set some intention on what you want your day to look like. And so don't let your morning happen to you. Craft some kind of morning routine. For me, that looks like waking up, meditating, writing in my gratitude journal, and reading a chapter in my Al-Anon books. And that is what I do every single morning before I even get out of bed. Then I get up, I drink a huge glass of water, I take my supplements, and then it is immediately out to walk the dog for over an hour. And then, and only then, can my day start. Like if it's raining outside and the walk gets delayed until several hours later, it's very disruptive for my day. And I also have come to the realization that me walking the dog is her exercise. I actually need my own as well. Mm-hmm. And so I will come back from being out on a trail for over an hour with her and immediately either lift weights or get on the treadmill and jog for myself, all the things. I also think learning how to maintain controlled flexibility within your environment, having a puppy, she's almost out of her puppy phase. She's 18 months, but because she's a Hungarian Vizsla, which are very, very, very active dogs. And, I was working with a dog trainer, and she was just like, your problem is you're trying to make a working dog into a house dog. And so you're going to need to stop doing that. And there were times that I would tell her, like, this situation super stresses me out. And she's like, well, then control the situation. And so, parents, if your kids are driving you crazy, how do you help control that situation? How can you mitigate that so that it becomes a healthier environment for everybody? Are your kids driving you crazy because they don't have enough activities? Or, as Shafali Tesbari teaches, are your kids driving you crazy because they're pushing up against your own ego and trying to show you a mirror in your face about all your bad flaws? Because that is something that we do to each other as human beings. And so, suffice it to say, my advice on what are some of the first steps, how can we craft a little bit more, is establish a morning routine that helps you to have control, but not absolutist control, a flexible control of your environment.
Semper Gumby, always flexible. I love it.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
What, we met you through Amari Global, the mental wellness company, and they've got some pretty cutting edge products, some nutritional supplements that are just amazing. We've been using them now for many months, and we've seen just an incredible change in our focus, how we show up in the world, our attitude, our clarity of thinking, just to name a few, energy. And I know that with your background in pharmacy and natural health, you've got a pretty good idea of what this means. And, from my point of view, I don't know any of that stuff. I would love to hear your input on what makes these products so powerful.
Well, I think a big piece of it is we take ancient knowledge of herbs and the importance of the microbiome, and we combine it with modern innovation, and we really try to look at, well, what is going to be something that's cutting edge? And one of the things that's very cutting edge about the Amare products is they've got strain specific bacteria that intentionally do what they do and don't try to be everything for everyone, right? I think so many times when it comes to supplements, people want something that's just going to hit them over the head with it does everything. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And so why don't we focus on creating the correct probiotic that's going to do the one key thing that we want it to do? Maybe that's reduce cortisol. Maybe that is to increase serotonin or increase GABA signaling, all of the things. And so we want to be sure that we're choosing something that is strain specific. And then beyond that, we want to nourish those strain specific bacteria with prebiotics that are matched to them so that we can actually nourish what we have and not just randomly guess, oh, I think it'll help. Okay, great. Yeah, awesome. And then you have to combine it with phytobiotics. Some people call them phytonutrients that can help to provide antioxidant capacity to the body, because if you don't have antioxidants, you in trouble, friend. You in some serious trouble. And so those are just a couple of the things. And to put it really simply, try the products, you're going to feel better, and if you don't feel better, you send them back. That's it. And I was talking with the CEO of the company the other day, and he was like, wait, so you're like, you say we're the feel better company? Like, don't you want to feel better? Like, doesn't that sound like something good? Like, how's staying the same going for you? And so there's a lot that makes them very special, but the strain specific probiotics matched with prebiotics combined with antioxidants, as well as leading market innovation in postbiotic supplements. I mean, I just did my functional medicine training just a year and a half ago and was trained that there are no postbiotic supplements. And so really leading the marketplace, as well as leading with heart and genuinely aiming to be a good company that attracts good people. Like, that's pretty phenomenal as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the connection piece. We were talking earlier about the gut brain axis, or GBX, and this is that connection piece, right? This is where you can upregulate your GABA and other signaling hormones that make you feel good, think better, be happier, right? And that's my understanding, at least. That's the happy juice. It's amazing stuff. In fact, we did late last fall, we did a 6-week adventure across the Hawaiian Islands.
Cool.
Kicked it off on Oahu with the Spartan races. And every step of the way, we we use the Amari products, and we knocked stuff out like crazy. We were snorkeling, kayaking, hiking, or climbing up waterfalls. Our energy was pegging really high. And I think it helped make the trip really special.
That's awesome. I love it. I mean, when you find supplements that make you feel better, that give you more oomph to go out there and challenge yourself to do something new, that's pretty amazing, because it's hard to do things. It's hard to do new things. It's hard to pay attention to yourself when all around the world we're being told like, oh, you got to take care of other people. You can take care of other people after you take care of yourself. How about that?
Yes.
Your own oxygen mask on first.
Yes, exactly.
Lindsey, thank you so much for the time and just the wonderful conversation. But before we wrap up, where can listeners go to follow you and find out more about what you're doing?
Sure. So you can find me at lindseyelmore.com. I'm also at Lindsey Elmore on Facebook and Instagram, at Dr. Lindsey Elmore on Pinterest and TikTok. I also have a functional medicine website called wellnessmadesimple.us, and you can listen to my podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's The Lindsey Elmore Show.
Fantastic. Thank you. And we'll have notes or links in the show notes so people can find everything pretty easily for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindsey.
Friends, if you found the Fierce Planet Adventures podcast helpful, please consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. It helps others find our podcast.
If you screenshot your review and tag us on Instagram, we'll send you a classic Fierce Planet Adventures sticker. For your water bottle, cooler, car, send us a direct message with your mailing address on Instagram, and we'll send you that sticker right out.
Thanks for joining us, and live fiercely.